Hello and welcome to a special series Kotak Mahindra Bank presents Corporate Conversations powered by Times Network, where I sit down with the heads of different enterprises and talk to them about their business. I get them to share their wealth of knowledge and also discover the person behind the business. On this episode, we're looking at small companies that have gone global. India's 36 million small and medium enterprises are becoming an increasingly critical component of our nation's economy. Small-town companies have become agile and are beginning to cross borders and play a crucial role in the balanced economic growth of the country. In the inaugural episode of Kotak Mahindra Bank presents Corporate Conversations powered by Times Network, a panel of experts shared their insights on small-town companies going global. The panelists included Manish Kothari, Business Head Corporate Banking, Large Corporates, MNC, SME and New Age Companies, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Amit Jain, Managing Director, Shingora Textiles. Gaurang Patel, CEO, GN Alltech. And Vatsal Nayak, Managing Director, Mahavir Synthesis. Amit, let's talk about small companies going global, and your company is a prime example of that. How have you seen the environment, the ecosystem in India change for small companies, small town companies rather, in the last couple of years?
I think one thing that's helping us is the brand India getting a little better internationally. So there's a little more respect and recognition in terms of being an Indian company. The other thing is that the companies in the small towns, given the access to the digital world, have been able to have a much better outreach that we would never have had in the past.
Gaurang, I want to come to you on the technology part. How are you seeing technology changing the way you're running your business, the way you're selling stuff, the way you're making stuff?
Having the right technology not only increases the productivity of manufacturing, but also gives the repeatability, because global customers now are looking for more consistent supply of parts.
So, Manish, your take here. So you've been in this space for a while. You've interacted with a lot of SMEs, with a lot of companies from different parts of the country. How are you seeing them evolve? How are you seeing them make the most of some of the opportunities that come to them, some of the benefits that they are facing and passing on?
I guess one big change which I am seeing over the last 2-3 years primarily is seeing more and more SMEs get organized. People are being open to using technology to improve how they really function. For some of the corporate banking technology-driven products which we used to offer to, say, the larger end of corporates, from the perspective of improving efficiency, whether it is on collections, whether it is on payments, that itself is a big change from the perspective of people wanting to become more efficient and hence wanting to move to possibly banks which are offering some of those products to improve their efficiency.
Well, the attrition rates were high. People would come work for an SME as maybe this is my first job. Now I've got the experience. I've done a few years. I get a job offer from a bigger company. In a flash, I'm gone. But are you seeing that changing as well?
Definitely. So what is happening is there's a realization that when you work for an SME and an SME who is trying to upscale its people, the learning opportunities are much better. People have that realization, and a lot of people who used to be part of the corporate world and wanted to move to a smaller town. Today we have at least 4 or 5 professionals like that in Shingora who are ex-MNC but are happy working with us.
I just wanted to add to that is like, in our organization we value human resource, and in spite of having world's best technology, humans are the drivers of the technology. So we have started a concept in our organization about Pathshala, where we train them, groom them, educate them, for more talent retention. Attrition rate in the organization is right now around 1.5 to 2%. That is at a blue collar level. So it really helps.
But we should not forget that technology is a two-edged sword.
Yes,
we are also losing the skilled people. With process automation, your dependence on an experienced and skilled person is reduced or to an extent eliminated. But then you don't have them, you don't grow them, you will not have them more in future.
Seen companies improving on the HR part, on the technology part, but is there really improvements happening on ground? By way of saying, our ease of doing business rankings have improved. But are you seeing that benefit on the ground? Is like specifically in your company as well as Gaurang and Vatsal coming to you? Are you seeing those changes happening? Are there still hurdles?
So, yes and no. While I can talk about GST and the positive impact of GST on our business for the longest time. On the other side, I think there is a huge anomaly where policies are being talked about but are not implemented on the ground. Now, how do you define SME? Even in today's day and age, we are still saying capital investment of, I think, 10 CR. You no longer stay an SME. The capital cost of machinery practically takes out every progressive company out of that SME definition. That needs to be corrected very, very fast if you really want the SME, specifically from the small towns, to go to the next level.
Definitely.
What Amit is saying is, I wouldn't say is completely unfounded when I talk from an entire banking system point of view, but from the perspective of how we see it as an opportunity in the banking space. Like I shared right at the beginning, I would a lot of products and services which used to be the domain of the larger corporates, we are bringing it to the SME space. And yes, of course, along with the compliances that you would expect from a larger corporate, it comes as a package along with it. The technology products on the collections or the payment side to improve and ensure that there is efficiency with respect to how the SME handles their collections and payments, we have offered it to a whole host of SMEs. Yes, of course, the compliances which you expect come along with it with respect to the quality of balance sheets, disclosures, and all of that, right? Which used to be a large challenge, but I am seeing more and more SMEs now open to showing the real numbers or open to showing the real profitability. Those were real hindrances which otherwise a lot of SMEs used to have a challenge with.
Moving on, Gaurang, your take on this, of the part where what are the challenges that you're still facing on ground? What are some of the key points that you want to share with us that you feel something needs to be done there so that companies, small-time companies, small SMEs can take a bigger jump?
Well, the definition of this 10 CR cap needs to be immediately addressed, because that is creating, cost of interest, financial cost is going up, plus you lose out on a lot of government subsidies if you cross that bracket. So for me, I think government needs to address that on a top priority, because it is impacting daily lives of small SMEs. The communication between the policymakers and the SME is huge. There are a lot of hierarchies in between. So if there is more direct communication, government should have certain models, certain platforms like this where you can easily interact with the government and have your thought processes.
Vatsal, your maybe top 1 or 2 points that you feel need to be addressed, need to be rectified?
Reforms are taking place. If you compare yourself with the developed countries, we are way behind. Things are improving and improving with pace. So I don't have any complaint.
In the banking system, a whole lot of SMEs, while there is no perfect or the regulatory definition of SME which one uses from the perspective of creating a coverage model, I must say that a whole lot of banks really look at turnover and not necessarily the gross block of a company in terms of investment from the perspective of providing services to the SME space.
I think that is good and that we definitely see, but what happens is that we miss out on a lot of opportunity that the government has to offer. And I think those opportunities just go without any takers to a large part, because people who genuinely can take advantage of them are kind of a mismatch given that.
And also I would like to add that government should have more tax rebates for exporters, which China government is supporting their exporters. So I think that can be a lot more incentives for the export people. Right now it is really flattened out, or there has not been any substantial change in the benefits, for duty drawbacks or MEIS benefits. So there should be more incentives.
But do you feel this might be because of the government's also pushing for make in India, make for India? Do you think that maybe that is a shift, or are we still, because yes, there was a time when we were gung-ho on exports,
Yeah.
which is, going global, making a mark for ourselves abroad. But now is there more of a thought on the maybe make in India, make for India for a domestic player?
I would rather see the government do specifically on the export side is infrastructure. Port infrastructure is poor. Customs today, if I want to export something, there's a custom officer who gets to decide if I'm right or wrong. When I want to import something, there's a huge set of things. So, me being in the fashion business, there are a lot of times we have to import our trims and then re-export them. The whole hassle of going through that, it's ridiculous. And a guy who's taking a judgment call on this has no clue. That guy's looking at plastic toys and as looking at fashion accessories in the same eye.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
From a banker's perspective, a business model which is not necessarily driven by the regulatory environment it makes it for far more stable business from the perspective of taking debt.
Okay.
And you would always build a far stronger business model if it was not only based on the incentives, etc. Having said that, like Amit rightly said, I guess the ease of managing the business is a far bigger challenge, which I hear from a whole lot of SMEs. More than actually a lot of people don't necessarily base their business model only on the incentive, but yes, their pain points are far more day-to-day driven in terms of how the challenges which they face in terms of running their business, which if that gets eased out, takes away far more amount of pain and releases their bandwidth to focus on their business, I guess.
I want to take a step back and talk to you guys about the person behind the business, which are you gentlemen. And Vatsal, I want to start with you. As an entrepreneur, there is no downtime. You're on 24/7. In a corporate place, I can still say, hey, I want my Saturday, Sunday. But there is no Saturday, Sunday for an owner. How do you manage the work-life balance?
See, it is up to you how you take it. If you like the work you do, you enjoy it.
Yes.
So basically, it's a simple rule that I don't bring my work to home until and unless it is burning or on a fire. Number two, I don't set deadlines. We set the direction that we want to get this, because I've seen by forming a deadline, either you will overrun your budget or you will compromise on the work quality. That is what happens in corporate world that I have seen sometimes. So at my place, we don't have strict deadline. We have a broad band that by this time we should be completing this work. So people who are working with me, they are not under pressure, and you perform well when you are in a free air.
Okay, wow.
So that helps a lot.
Amit, you're in a family-run business, and the challenges and opportunities for family-run businesses are very different.
Correct.
How are you managing those different responsibilities that are falling on your shoulders in a family-run business?
I always tell everybody, family-run businesses are a paradox between a capitalistic world and a socialist world. You've got to keep on jumping one boat to the other every day of your life.
Right.
And I think that's something that as a family, we've kind of gotten a pretty good hang of. So when all of us are in Ludhiana, we don't work together. My mom, my dad, my brother and I, we do completely different roles in the organization. But there's one time in the day where we definitely sit down is lunch.
Okay.
So lunch comes from my mom's kitchen on a daily basis. The four of us sit down and that's our boardroom.
Okay.
We end up in arguments, discussions, agreements, but that's that 1 hour for us, which is sacrosanct, and everybody in the organization knows, nobody disturbs us at that time.
Manisha, come to you first before going on to Gaurang. They say that a morning routine is something that's really important, but I want to take that one more step ahead. Is there something that you do personally in your day that, if you don't do it, the day seems incomplete? What is that like one important thing for you every day?
For me, it is what I call non-doing. So it's called, so the other word for it is meditation. So my morning routine definitely has to have some time for non-doing, where I'm otherwise the entire day you spend doing.
Yes.
So that's the me time where I'm connected to whatever higher source I believe in, and I don't miss it even for a single day.
Gaurang, coming to you, to achieve success, everybody has somewhere missed out on something, given up something. I would like you to look back and see maybe something in your journey that you feel you gave up or you missed out on to reach where you are today.
Yes, there is a saying, there is no free lunch, you know.
Yeah.
You lose out, you gain something, you lose something. Yes, when we start business, and there is like when you're taking step forward, you know, there is a lot of sacrifices you have to make in life, like, less time with friends, family and all. But I think once things start stabilizing, you know, then you have delegation of responsibilities. As your organization grows, you have team, and then it's upon you how you want to reduce your role in the organization and delegate more responsibility to people, and start trusting people, giving them accountability and responsibility and freedom of decisions. So that's how then the life becomes easier. So
Right. So I have to come to everybody for closing comments, and I'll just start with you, Vatsal. Now, your thoughts on the SME space for the way ahead in another 5 years. How do you see things changing? How do you see brand India abroad?
Now world is becoming flat. India has been on a lower heights. So India is going to gain, come what may, later or sooner. So India has a very bright future. So those SME who has value and respect, they will survive. Instead of growth, we should look for the sustainable growth, and then the format of corporate or SME or small scale doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you do things right in whatever scale, you will survive. And India is full of opportunities.
Okay, fantastic. Amit, I wanted a little different question. For India to make a sizable mark on the global stage in the fashion space, what is the one or two things you need?
I think we need to look at Indian brands. For me, the biggest opportunity is that all of these international brands who come into India don't know what India is really about.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't know that the extra tadka that we need,
Yeah.
they don't understand, or at least so far.
Right.
They will sooner
so-
than later. And that's the opportunity space for the Indian brands. So what we are doing within Shingora is that being the exporter and exporting to the world, we are taking the best from there and just using our local knowledge and marrying the two to create a brand. And I think that's where the huge opportunity is going to come from. Everybody in India wants to serve that 1% HNI audience. Forget that. Forget that. Middle India is much bigger, is way more smarter and way more informed than it ever used to be. I think we are living in the best times ever. I love this time and I love the opportunities.
Superb. Gaurang, your thought on the way ahead in, I don't know, in the next 10 years, if you and me are sitting here on the same panel, what will we be talking about?
I agree, you know, it's huge opportunities for India, especially the international situation with tariffs and all, especially in our part of industry, you know, it's huge opportunities with China situation with tariffs. A lot of business from China is shifting to India. So, and also, you know, global brand, what our leadership has created India. So now, first it was considered as a third world country not long back, and now people know that India is just not that, you know, it's not famous for its IT, it is famous for its manufacturing, clothing, engineering, all those parts. Now that we have got a global recognition, so definitely there will be more opportunities to India, and you know, especially with internet, industry 4.0, you know, connection is becoming very easy. You know, you can connect to global world pretty easily. And one more thing I would say is that government should encourage more cross-border dialogues. You know, SMEs should be allowed more to visit developed countries. Developed countries should be allowed to visit our industries and share good business practices. You know, that will help more merger. You know, we'll understand more developed world, and us will be more aligned and more, you know,
The cooperation
engaged. Yeah, cooperation would be much better.
Manish, final question to you. You know, generally SMEs have a couple of pain points: HR, technology, advertising, marketing, and finance. So HR, technology, we've addressed. Marketing, finance, we're talking about going abroad and making a mark abroad. The finance part, which is where you're the expert, How do you see things changing for the way ahead? What do these SMEs and the SMEs watching need to keep in mind so that at least they don't need to worry about finance?
In my view, SMEs clearly are the backbone of the employment generation, and also from the perspective of for India to grow. From a financing point of view, you will find more and more banks are talking about the how part of addressing the SME space, which means bringing in the requisite products to be in a position to service the SME space. And technology is rightly helping reach out and make the cost of reaching out to far-flung places from the perspective of providing your services and products that much easier, which otherwise was not as easy from the perspective of cost to serve. So in my view, I think technology is really also aiding the banking system to provide these services at the right cost, and you are in a position to reach out to many more companies which are doing phenomenal work in that particular ecosystem. So I'm pretty bullish about this space not really getting starved of financing. Definitely the better, more organized players and people who are becoming more and more compliant with respect to governance, regulation, will find there is no dearth of financing to whatever their dreams are in terms of growth.
Okay, super. Well, on that note, thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It's been a totally engrossing and thought-provoking and eye-opening panel. Thank you so much for watching. You were watching Kotak Mahindra Bank Presents Corporate Conversations, powered by Times Network. And I hope you're taking back some key pointers from here. Yes, there are some hurdles yet to overcome, but the way ahead is definitely bright. There is a lot of growth, and passion is something that is very much required. So if you're looking to start off on your own, or if you already have a business that you are running, rest assured the future is very bright. Thank you so much for watching. Next in the Kotak Mahindra Bank Presents Corporate Conversations series, we bring you a gripping discussion between stalwarts in the NBFC sector.